Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are going to be starting in about a couple of minutes as we're still having people join us. In the meantime, please feel free to type in the chat where you're from so we can get to know you a little better. And we're very excited to have you. Looks like a great group. Awesome. Nice. Awesome. And for those folks that are just joining us, we are about to get started in a minute. And we're just welcoming everyone to type in the chat where you're from. And this is how you'll also know how the chat works. We have people from Scotland, Puerto Rico, Atlanta, Arizona, DC, great group. San Jose, California, early for you, good morning. Tampa, Alabama, amazing.
I see some of your names in there. That's good.
All right. Well, as folks are still joining us, we're going to slowly get started. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar, ThreatConnect plus Polarity, a better together story. I'm Arpine Babloyan, VP of Demand Generation at ThreatConnect. I am very excited to introduce our speakers today. We have the two co-founders, Andy Pendergast, co-founder of ThreatConnect, and Joe Ravella, co-founder of Polarity. And before we jump into the presentation, I just have a couple of logistical details. At the bottom of your screen, you see this extend button that you can use to make your screen bigger if you would like. On the upper right, as some of you have already discovered, there is an option to open chat. You can use the chat throughout the presentation to ask your questions, and we will cover them at the end. And I wanted to also thank you to those of you who have submitted questions in advance. We will have some time for questions. And if your question isn't covered for whatever reason, definitely let us know. We'll get back to you after for one-on-one question coverage. That being said, again, welcome and thank you to Andy and Joe for today. I am going to hand it over to you.
Okay, Arpine, thank you very much. Everyone, I'm really excited. This has been a long time coming, and I hope that we can have some fun. Thank you for joining us. We'll try to keep it moving at a fast pace and action-packed. We've already received a lot of questions from you, and we'll make sure that we've got plenty of time at the end to address those that have come in. As Arpine said, if you've got more, please feel free to jump in the chat there. Okay, so I have some slides we'll get through to kind of flesh out the story, but Joe is going to lead us through a demo of Polarity and ThreatConnect together that I think will be also really cool. And we'll try to get to that as quickly as we can here. So really quick, hey everybody, I'm Andy. As Arpine said, I'm co-founder of ThreatConnect. I have a history in the intelligence community as a cyber threat intelligence analyst. I currently run the product team and co-lead the customer success team here at ThreatConnect, as most co-founders do. I wear whatever hat they tell me to. And then Joe, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Joe Ravella, Chief Strategy Officer and SVP here at Polarity ThreatConnect. Like Andy, I have an operational background, more on the operational security incident response side of the house, and really looking forward to presenting alongside Andy today. Thanks for joining.
I'm also realizing that my headshot there got a little bit more gray than I used to there. Okay, so if you're joining today and you're a Polarity customer, or you kind of saw the announcement and you're not familiar with ThreatConnect, just a quick overview. What do we do? So we operationalize threat intelligence for the security operations teams, for incident response, for hunt, for security leaders. We also inform decisions based off of risk. we're going to focus in today mostly on the CTI portion of the kind of what the ThreatConnect family is focused on. We've been around a little bit more than a decade, have our roots in the Intel community within the United States. We did a lot of services the first few years as we were bootstrapping. Got a lot of mature, large customers and some that are a little bit smaller too. I wanted to focus in on the why a bit, like what's the vision for the company. So this is literally the vision statement of the company: change the way security works by turning intelligence and insights into action. And that really is the seed, the nugget, the kernel of why we saw Polarity as being a net value add, sort of 1 and 1 is 3 for our customers. We'll break that out here as we go along. So again, just a quick overview of TC and in particular the TI Ops platform. If you're not familiar with it, sometimes also just called a tip. We're a bit more than a tip, in that we aggregate information from whatever intelligence source or internal source that you have, make it available for enrichment and analysis to drive decision making across the team, create a threat library of prioritized threat actor groups and threat events that are relevant for the organization. And then allow particularly a CTI team to analyze that. We've got a lot of machine learning and AI in the platform now that helps bubble up those insights for decision making, and then to take action with them with the downstream integrations that you see on the right side of the screen into your security controls, but also reporting to inform leadership, keep situational awareness, or drive an action at the leadership level. We do all that through API-based integrations, UI, but also a low-code, no-code solution with our playbooks and automation. Okay, so why join forces? So Polarity and ThreatConnect go back a long way. But let's talk about Polarity first a bit and what it does.
Yeah. So, if you're familiar with Polarity already, or even if you're not, what we are is we're a federated search platform, an automated search platform that queries information from multiple different data sources in parallel, right? Oftentimes in just sub-second or seconds time, and brings it forward to you in a single unified view, like you see in the example here. If you're an operational analyst, if you're a threat analyst, right, sometimes we have to be pivoting from many different technologies in order to make a high quality decision. Folks who have heard me speak before, who know me, know that I don't like to hone in only on speed, right? Our industry is notorious for this. Faster, 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 but we also need to make sure that we're being better, right? Good decisions fast. So that's what you're seeing here in this example with Polarity leveraging all of your different Intel data sets and dropping them right on top of a more operational background like a ticket or a Splunk, which we'll actually get into a live example later. It queries over 200 data sources, right? It allows you to take actions to aggregate the information and to push information into different data sets. Really what we're trying to solve is 3 or 4 core problems. And one is it's super painful to get to the data we need to make decisions. We have lots of different data sets that we need to reference in order to make that high quality decision that we referenced earlier. Sometimes we work in silos. We're not aware of what other people are doing on the team, and we lose a lot of visibility when that happens. So Polarity set out to solve those 4 problems, and now with the joint mission of operationalizing threat intelligence across our collective customer base. Whether or not you're an existing ThreatConnect customer or not, you may have a different tip. The mission still remains the same, right? Operationalize the threat intel data. Now, we can go about the delivery of the capability in 3 different ways, which is on the next slide here. One is just through our web UI. The web UI is the platform that is designed more so for your analysts with a more static workflow. If you find yourself in the same 1 or 2 platforms day to day, the web UI is going to be a great way for you to leverage the capability really, really quickly. If you're a little bit more advanced, more of a tier 2, tier 3 incident responder, and you find yourself working in lots of different platforms maybe VMs, different terminals, thick clients. Think about something like a Wireshark or some other bash terminal that's on your screen. The Polarity client is going to be the way to go. It can go with you wherever you go. And that's really one of the core principles that we set out with when we developed the platform, is that cybersecurity work takes us lots of different places, and our tool sets shouldn't be relegated or confined to only working in one place. They should come with us wherever our work takes us. That way we can reap the benefits of the data and the historical analysis, historical work that's been done by our coworkers, colleagues, and maybe even ourselves going into the future. And we also have the ability to accommodate, our partners that are doing more DevSecOps, right? They're helping us to define the rules, the tools that are going to be giving us more high fidelity alerting, which is why we created and opened up our API in our last major release. That way, the same information that's queried from the web or from the client can be drawn into other platforms for on-the-fly enrichment. That we have one localized place to manage, your upwards of 200 integrations, and really getting back a lot of the time associated with, cost of ownership and building versus buying. So those are the three core ways you can use the platform.
So I mentioned that ThreatConnect and Polarity go back a long way. So we look at the benefit of Polarity, and actually this was driven by customers, right? We see it, but more importantly, our customers see it. We already have a good cohort of customers that have us both in their environments and an existing integration that benefits both users of ThreatConnect and users of Polarity on the more so on the intel consumption or operational side. So we see them as highly complementary, where ThreatConnect's doing analytics at scale on threat intelligence and bubbling up, as Joe said, the right decisions and the right insights, or the right insights to drive the right decision. Polarity's operating wherever the analyst is at the point of need, at the point of decision, as they're doing their work. So you don't need to log in to ThreatConnect platform to get the intelligence delivered to the SOC analyst or the incident responder. You get that right away as they're doing their work, along with any other relevant source, internal or external, that might help them to take the next step and the right next step. And I think the team as well, both sides have a really interesting kind of history together that we'll talk about here. So outside of just the friendship and the customer base, we needed to make it work for actually bringing benefit to a broader kind of industry level change that, in order to really, to do the move that we did here. So, it began actually way back before either company existed. We actually have found that we worked together upwards of 15 years ago, some of us in the intelligence community, on the same problems without even realizing it. In the very beginnings of both companies, we had early integrations. We actually, funny enough, one of the, I think, early customers of Polarity came to us at ThreatConnect and said, "Hey, this is a really cool tech that we just ran into. We think you guys could do this." And we were like, "No, man, that's way too awesome for us. We can't replicate that. They've got to do it." And that was sort of the seed of their relationship from the beginning. Today, we've got a lot more joint customers, and we maintained a good relationship over the course of the last 8-10 years. At the leadership level, and also at the joint customer level. And as we're going to demonstrate, there's a lot of product synergy that we have. What we see moving the needle for our customers, for the larger industry as a whole, is with ThreatConnect and Polarity, we can speed we can speed and inform decision making across security teams, right, and risk teams. So today, and this is a broader, what you see here is a broader view of not just step 1, but probably step 2, 3, and maybe 4 of the different personas within a larger security or risk team that we look to support with the combined offerings. ThreatConnect today focuses in on CTI teams and helping them provide value to their stakeholders and their consumers within security organization, primarily the SOC, IR, and Hunt. And that's really where Polarity lives for the majority of its customer base. So we're able to feed intelligence into them more seamlessly, as we've talked about. But there's also next steps that we'll look to do with our risk quantification product and better serving CISOs and risk teams and vulnerability management teams with this combined offering as well. So let's look at what exists today and what we can do. So Joe, do you want to jump into the demo here?
Yeah, absolutely. You may have to stop your share, Andy, in order for me to take it. There we go.
I gave you the ball.
Thank you, sir. All right, am I coming through? Is it still demo time?
Still demo time.
All right, awesome. Yeah, again, thanks everybody for joining us here today. Wanted to dive into the technology now that everybody knows the background about, ThreatConnect, what they do, Polarity, a little bit about what we do, but really, get into the show and tell component of this. This is live, so I always like to throw out, if anybody wants to toss something into the chat, if I can pay enough attention to it, happy to toss something in here as we go, just to prove that it's in fact a live demo. But really wanted to look at this through the lens of an operational security person, right? So we've got threat intelligence within an organization. We also have loads of other data sets within an org that can be very valuable to us when making decisions, right? When analyzing. And we're going to start here with just a UI, right? People are going to be familiar with this. It's Splunk. Now, it doesn't matter if it's Splunk or Devo or Elastic or, what's the other one? Sumo Logic, right? There's lots of different SIM platforms. There's lots of different workflow platforms. You're going to work where you work. But again, the point is Polarity goes with you wherever you go. So you encounter a string, and I'm going to hone in on this local IP address to start, right? Internal IP. And I want to know something more about this. And I'm going to go ahead and run a search against this string. I'm going to start the most basic way, which is pasting directly into the UI of Polarity. Now, what you're seeing here is the Polarity client. I mentioned there's three mechanisms that you can leverage to use the power of the platform. One is web. One is the client for our power users, right? Our hat switchers. And then the other is through the API. The client has a lot of capability that extends wherever I go. So this is the one that we're going to be showing today. And I searched this internal IP, and what you'll see coming back here are data sources. I have them mapped to specific colors. There doesn't necessarily need to be a rhyme or reason associated with the colors, but I put my ticketing systems in a blue tone. I put my internal chat in a reddish orange. I put my Splunk and my SIM to a purple, right? Just to help me color code and understand what's coming back to me quickly. The first thing that comes back in Polarity is what we call the bluff, right? It's the bottom line up front, and it's displayed within what we call the summary block. You don't need to know Polarity nomenclature in order to understand its value. We're giving you a base understanding of what we know about this thing very, very quickly after we run that federated search or that automated search against all of our tooling. Here I can see I have tickets in Jira. I have some information in ServiceNow. There's Slack exchange on this historically. I have hits in Splunk. I've got some playbooks that may have been run against this particular thing in the past. I've got some Confluence data, et cetera, right? This helps me understand where I have data and where I don't. It's very easy for me to click in and get the additional details. I just click in this box and I can quickly jump and I can see where I have open tickets. I can quickly jump to ServiceNow, maybe my CB records, and I can see what this thing is. In this case, it's a web server. Here's its external IP, host name, and the owners. All of this is very customizable. If you have other fields within ServiceNow, just in this example that you need to bring back, we're going to bring that back. Now, what you're not seeing here yet, right, is threat intel, right? This is just internal view of data. What is it? Do I have tickets? Do I have any historical interaction with this thing by way of my SIM? Have we ever executed a playbook on it? Do I have any information in something like a Confluence or maybe a G Drive or a SharePoint? The information that we bring back to make good analytical decisions is not just threat intel, right? But we do also add that additional layer of value. It just compounds. We get the internal view, we get the external view. threat intelligence that's open source, and the curated stuff that sits in things like ThreatConnect, right? And we're going to show all that in just a couple moments. But just remember that internal view is also very, very important. And how we started here is we searched just one thing. But when you're making an analytical decision in the context of an event, typically you need to understand many things at one time. So it's very important that Polarity searches multiple things. And in this case, you can see here, I'm going to take a block of data, and I'm just going to come over here to the Polarity search UI, and I'm going to go ahead and search the clipboard. And what you'll see in this case is that we are now running the same searches, right? That automated search, that federated search across lots of different tools in parallel and bringing all of this information back. Now for the external IPs, right? You can see we are now tapping into open source threat intelligence. I had those turned on by default. So for example, this 108 IP that's contained within the network traffic, I can see it's got 0 detections in virus total. I can see a few pulses historical with Alien Vault OTX, and I can see Abuse IPDB, for example, has a 0% risk score. Remember, this is just the bluff. I can go in here and I can look at these pulses, right, very, very quickly. I can, pivot and navigate to any one of these technologies to see the specifics. So one thing to highlight here is that there is extreme value in multi-sourcing your intel, right? Whether or not you're connecting to these feeds directly in Polarity or whether or not you're already aggregating them into a threat intel platform like ThreatConnect, right? The value is there because some tools will conflict with what others say. If lots of different tools and technologies are telling you that something's benign, then perhaps you can trust that a little bit more than if 2 are saying it's malicious, 3 are saying benign, or if 5 are saying malicious, right? Then we have something that we can have pretty high confidence in. But the value of bringing in multi-source is super, super important. And you can see here, we just have the ability to pivot and dive down into information. The experience can change based on the types of data that come back. So you can see here, for example, virus total that has lots of different detections. We have the ability to kind of surface that up and bring it forward to then give the analyst kind of a visual cue as to whether or not there's something here. One other benefit that we have with bringing this information into Polarity is we have this ability to do secondary, tertiary sources very, very quickly on the fly. So we ran this search based on what we're seeing in the background here within Splunk, right? Where I'm doing my work. Now, I have 2 integrations for Splunk running, just to give you an example of how our SIM integrations work. One is actually querying the firewall index, which you can see right here is the index that I'm in. So no surprises that we have hits here. But it also gives me quick visibility as to whether or not I have the presence of this string in any other of my SIM indexes. So we have this ability to leverage Polarity like a scalpel, searching something very, very tactically against a data set. But we also have the ability to use this broadsword where we can see where everything is across a large data set. So those are just 2 of the value propositions of leveraging something like a SIM integration. Now, we can always pivot from data set to data set. Going back to the entity that we started with, right? And I'm going to use the quick keyboard shortcut here just to search this string. The quick keyboard shortcut can be leveraged and it can be changed. It works on Mac, it works on Windows. You can change them so that it doesn't conflict with any of the other keys that you have already pre-configured or if there's conflicts. But the idea here is I'm going to search this string and now I'm going to see that I have a ticket open and I'm going to want a quick pivot to this ticket. Now, when I'm working in something like a Jira ticket, perhaps the actual event was triggered already by threat intelligence. I may not know that, but it could be some other detection rule. It could be behavioral. This is a scenario where I may want to see the specifics of what's contained within my curated threat intel. So here I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to subscriptions within the platform, and I'm going to turn on my ThreatConnect integrations, right? Now, we have 3 existing ThreatConnect integrations. Andy's going to tell you in a little while how we plan to enhance some of these and what the future holds for the interconnectivity with the 2 platforms. But I'm going to turn those on. I'm also going to turn on our data miner integration, which is brand new as of just a couple days ago. And you'll see here when I'm working in a ticket, again, remember Polarity goes wherever you go. I can take that same experience, take a couple entities, search them with the platform, and then bring the information right back into the overlay window. So with these 2 new entity types, you can see here for my more internal view of data, I can get that ServiceNow information. I can get the data coming back from chat ops, right? But with this 216, now I'm referencing ThreatConnect information on the fly, right? Now, this is the ThreatConnect query-based integration. And when I want to consume this, all I have to do is click on that integration itself, and the information from TC is going to load here for me, along with all of the other data sets from all of my other tools. So this is super powerful. I can check, yes, recorded future and see what it has available. I can see virus total and what it has. I can check all these sources. But the data within ThreatConnect, it's actually loading a little bit. So perfect timing for a live demo. Told you it was live. When this loads, it's going to come back and it's going to tell me who within the organization has tagged it, what other tags are associated with it. Here we go. What the ThreatConnect base score is. And Andy, maybe this is just a good opportunity for you to share a little bit about what goes into things like the indicator analysis score and what other folks can do with some of this other data.
Yeah, for sure. So right off, like this is coming in from a single feed. You know, sometimes you have an indicator that might have multiple feeds in it, but for this one, it's from CINS or CENS Army IP list, which is an aggregate of, I think, community shared IP addresses or hits from the Sentinel IPS group, right? So they are IPs, they're ephemeral. You know, you got to take them with a grain of salt, but ThreatConnect helps you do that. You can see the threat assess score is fairly high on the scale of 1,000, and you know we've got the threat rating and confidence to kind of see what CINS looks at it as well. If for some reason though, you know you're looking at this a few days later, or this is stale information, that IP address has moved on, no longer malicious, you can absolutely, as a Intel consumer, give ThreatConnect feedback with reporting it as false positive. If you're in, and so that goes back into our scoring algorithm, both in your instance of ThreatConnect, and it will also influence how we rate that feed overall and its timeliness in our own Cal analytics and what we report back moving forward. So that benefits you, and it also benefits the broader set of ThreatConnect users just by clicking a button if you see it as like, hey, this isn't something you should pay attention to it. But if it is of interest, you can take further on steps to add this into an investigation, either in ThreatConnect or push it, as Joe might be able to mention, in other ticketing systems, ServiceNow, et cetera, for either your team or another team to follow up on.
Yep, that's exactly right. And I think what's as important as what you can do within the platform. So, I can report this as a false positive, of course. I can push data into ThreatConnect. But depending on my role, it might not be appropriate for me to take certain steps like adjust these values, right? So if I'm more of a consumer of the threat intelligence and there's other folks with the responsibility for curation, this can all be locked down in a role-based access control way, where the only thing I really want to expose insofar as capability is the means to report a false positive, or maybe open up something like a threat intel request, an RFI. So I can use something like Polarity Forms to say, there's something interest here. I need more information. I can fill out the type of request that I may want to have. Maybe it's a full-blown assessment. Maybe it's just some clarification. Maybe it's some OSINT details because I didn't have enough of what I want. Put a urgency around that, provide some details, and then I can submit that into my team on the back end, right? So that they can help me fulfill this request and I can understand this thing going forward. Now, just as though I'm digging into this and I'm understanding it, it's also good to know whether or not I'm actually doing this for the first time or whether or not other folks on my team are working on a similar problem. We could have someone in a different function. If I'm SOC, maybe there's somebody in IR. If I'm IR, maybe there's somebody in Hunt. If I'm Hunt, maybe there's someone working on this in Threat. It'd be very good to know whether or not I'm working on the same thing as others, which is where our capability called Polarity Source Analytics actually helps give visibility into this, where I can see actually, no, I'm really one of the first ones to be working on this problem. Whereas if I'm searching something that maybe comes up a lot within the enterprise, this is Google's DNS here, I use it a lot in my presentations, I can see here, this particular string has been looked up a boatload across my org and I can see who's done it. This helps me avoid some of that historical duplication of effort where, I can either be collaborating and contributing to something versus doing the same thing as one of my colleagues. So this is just how we can give you visibility into not just ThreatConnect, but multi-tools, understand whether or not you're duplicating efforts and get all that internal insight as well. Now, I mentioned using the client, there's this capability to extend wherever we go. And to drive that point home, I'm just going to bring up Signal. So some of you may be familiar with Signal. Some of you may, run it on your desktops. Here I have a note from a colleague, right? Just saying, hey, heads up, somebody got hit hard by this particular threat actor. And I'm just going to take this and I'm going to run the search directly from the Signal client. So again, Polarity goes with you wherever you go. Now here, I was able to tap into a different data source within ThreatConnect. It's the same data store, but it's different information available within the platform. Here, we got hits on social media, in particular Twitter. We got hits from ThreatConnect group search, but we also got information from Data Miner, that data set that I mentioned before, which is super, super powerful data. Now, if I want to drill into the information within ThreatConnect, I can scroll right here, go to the reports, and now if I'm a joint Polarity ThreatConnect user, I can pivot directly into the platform to consume this information. I can learn all about Void Banshee in this particular case, which there were new reports on just several days ago, 6-7 days ago. So I thought it was relevant just to bring their name into the fold. And you can see here one of the vulnerabilities that they're exploiting on a regular basis. And here I may want to understand this vulnerability even more. I'm going to use Polarity's focus mode, which gives me the ability to recognize text anywhere on any screen. And I'm just going to run a search on this vuln. And so just like we've seen before, albeit with different use cases, we're tapping into social data. We're tapping into the Polarity source analytics so I can know whether or not I'm the only one working on this problem or not. Threat intel, obviously, contained within ThreatConnect. NVD, free sources, NVD, CISA, these are available in both platforms, as well as my commercial things like Recorded Future. And Slack. Slack is, a very important integration if you're leveraging this platform, other chat ops. It gives me some insight as to whether or not we're actively managing this problem. And here I can see that someone actually may have already been working on this, or whether or not it's in flight. No one necessarily needs me to raise all the red flags within the organization if we're already managing it. This is where things like chat or things like ticketing can be super, super helpful to integrate with. But if this is the focus of my effort, if I have this adversary and I know that this vulnerability is being exploited in the wild, perhaps I want to do the best I can do for my organization to help them understand it and get to resolution faster. Now, I can take information from all of my sources. I can take it from social. I can take it from ThreatConnect. I can take it from Mandiant. And I can roll all this up and I can try my hardest in order to get this into one nice, succinct summary. But it's going to take me some time. Maybe I got a little bit of writer's block and I want to make sure I get this right because it's going to be consumed by a lot of people. So I can do that on my own and I can start from scratch, or maybe I can use something like the Polarity Assistant, which taps into an LLM of your choosing. This is a bring your own LLM model. And I can ask Polarity to summarize this information for me on the fly. We're hearing this a lot from our joint customers, right? The ability to just take information, synthesize it into a succinct summary so that it can be leveraged in both report writing, both for internal kind of ticket closure type of scenarios, or for conveyance of important messages to other consumers within the organization. This could be a business owner who needs to understand why it's so important that we close a vuln. It could be an executive so that they can understand the full effect and full risk associated with it. But this AI summary gives us the ability to take the information from all the integrations, put it together in a 3-4 paragraph consolidation here. And for users who really don't have the time of day to read 3 or 4 paragraphs, we can give it to you in just one bluff statement at the bottom, typically confined to one single paragraph. So this is the way we can take some information, synthesize it, and boil it down to the salient points that we can use for, getting past that writer's block, using as a basis for a report that we want to generate and get to a consumer. So far at this point, we've been able to show Polarity working on top of something like a SIM, right? A more operational tool, something like a ticketing system. We're searching actor names, we're searching CVEs, we're searching IPs. We have the ability really to search anything. And to drive that home, I just want to talk about one more use case, one more scenario here, which is, what if tomorrow there's that, intel report and everybody's dropping everything to see, if we're defended, to inform our defenses and just prepare the organization to be ready for a particular scenario. And what I have here is a new report, relatively new, just summarizing APT 41 and how they're emerging once again. This is a report produced by Mandiant. These reports often follow a very anticipatable format, right? They're going to tell you about the actor, what they're observing, attack path, MITRE framework, etc. And then oftentimes you're going to get these nice summaries at the bottom that talk about indicators of compromise across the board. And we're going to start with these host-based indicators. Super, super easy for me within a browser or really any tool, right? But now we're using a browser to grab all this content, right? And I like to use the copy, search the clipboard option so people can see. If I use the keyboard shortcut, sometimes it just gets lost as to what we're doing. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to run all of these through. And again, not just one source, multi-source. And here we're dealing with 20, 25 different entity types. So we're running anywhere between, really bad at math in this regard, but more than 100, right? Probably more than 150 different searches across all of our tools. And we're doing it really, really quickly, as Andy said, at the point of need. And here, what we're getting back, obviously, threat intel sources, right? We've covered that. We know we're going to get that. And we know we can get internal sources. So if this hit in my CrowdStrike EDR, right? If this hit in my Defender, we're going to get that visibility within the Polarity UI. But I really like honing in on the value of the absence of data, right? We've got two integrations that we're running for these hashes. One is with a technology that I love, and I make no money for telling people that I love it. It's called Echo Trail. They do have a free account that you can get. And it searches executables and hashes and tells you whether or not it's known expected to be running on an operating system. We also have a free integration that runs against the Circle database that's called the Circle hash lookup utility. And that's on Polarity. It's a free integration there. And what these are telling me is that this particular hash is unknown according to Circle, which is, if you're familiar with the NSRL database, a inventory of what's known and expected. And then we also have the Echo Trail not observed telling me that it's not expected on the system. So here we have two different sources. We don't know what this is. And this is going to be consistent as we go down through the list of hashes here: unknown, not observed, unknown, not observed. Effectively, what I'm gleaning from this data is that these particular hashes are not going to conflict. They're not going to collide with an executable that I need running on an operating system, right? So that I can help to avoid breaking it. If we're going to inform downstream detection, we'd also want to signal to them that it's dependent on the operating system itself. So it's super, super powerful that we can tell the difference here between what is a binary or an executable or a hash representation of those files that are unknown, right? Maybe directly associated with an adversary behavior, a TTP, in this case in the form of an IOC, or it's something that is common and it might be more of a living off the land scenario. Also very, very valuable to know. Now, if I start with an inventory like this, yes, I can check everything, I can take actions, but one thing that I also may want to do is ensure that my library, right, ensure that my inventory of indicators within something like ThreatConnect is current and accurate. And to do that, all I have to do is identify the ThreatConnect IOC submission integration, which is going to tell me two things. One, that I have certain of these entities represented within the database. And the other is that I have new entities that are not contained. So here I can see those that are already in ThreatConnect. Here I can see those that are not. I can do a quick add. I can associate it with a title. In this case, out of lack of creativity, I'm just going to tag them as APT41. I'll skip the questions. I'll rate this as high confidence, critical, skip the tags, and I can now submit these indicators right into my threat intel platform to inform my downstream processes and teams across the board. So that's several different use cases, several different ways you can leverage the platform. It's a quick glimpse into the 3 different classes of ThreatConnect integration that we have already today. And I'll either, Andy, send it back to you, or if there's any questions on that you might have or that you want to post from the group, happy to cover those too.
I think we jump back to the presentation. Or do you want me to present? Okay. All right. So thank you, Joe.
Yeah, sorry, Andy. I'm still getting used to this new presentation tool that we're using. Sorry for the.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about I know there's a lot of capability there with Polarity and ThreatConnect together. We're just getting started, right? So we got a lot of questions before the webinar, and a few here in the chat as we've gone. We'll have a Q&A session as well after this, but this section might answer a few of them as we go. So day one today, right? What are we doing? So there will be, for Polarity customers that are considering a ThreatConnect, there will be bundling options for that. For ThreatConnect customers that are interested in and excited about checking out Polarity, we'll have bundling options for that. We'll also be introducing a lighter weight Intel edition of Polarity. So stay tuned for information on that, or contact us and we'll get you informed there. And there's some immediate product enhancements that we're both teams are working on, adding cases into ThreatConnect from Polarity. If you want to kick off an investigation with the team inside of ThreatConnect, to add a case that's both human and automation led, you can do that. Our collective analytics layer has a lot of capability that we're really excited to bring to Polarity customers. So someone asked, before the webinar about what's changing for Polarity customers today with ThreatConnect. The most important thing is the capabilities that you're going to get are going to expand based off of the ThreatConnect's core capabilities with Cal, some of our AI functionality that we have coming in the near term, with adding in our own LLM capabilities and other ML capabilities that we have native to Cal, so that we can highlight additional information when you're looking at something or when you go into focus mode with Polarity. Everything from MITRE attack techniques pulled out with natural language processing and annotated and able to be correlated, to threat actor names just kind of highlighted right out the gate with aliased information on there to kind of give you a feel of what you're looking at. If you're looking at a blog, as Joe was showing on APT41, if you want to know the decoder ring for all the other names that might go by and what you might also want to pivot a search on, you'll be able to do that right away. Same with malware names, etc. Other indicator reputation and analytics will also be added to Polarity users, independent of a ThreatConnect subscription. So we're looking to add capability to Polarity right off. We have some more things that we're doing in the near term to streamline the experience. We'll be rolling out a shared login. We'll be adding kind of no-brainer capabilities between the two platforms, like the ability to run playbooks from Polarity inside of ThreatConnect. And also looking a little further out, we're exploring the ability to look at Polarity as a front-end AI assistant, right? So you see the beginnings of that with what Joe demonstrated with the AI summaries. We're looking at other use cases where we may be able to inform or speed decisions with AI as it makes sense, depending on what the use case is. If you're furthering an investigation, or you need to deep dive on threat intelligence and get more information than just topic level stuff. We're also looking at integrating with our risk quantification platform, as it's providing more and more operationally relevant information to the risk of a given external entity or vulnerability to your organization. Today, RQ quantifies things based on dollars, so it can tell you, the monetary impact estimated of a given vulnerability based on the assets and business processes that it might affect in your organization, or what the risk of a given host or asset in your environment may be, as additional internal context that we might be able to highlight to an analyst on the screen with Polarity. And finally, as we're exploring, working with several customers, both on the Polarity and ThreatConnect side, on the use case of expanding to physical security use cases, with supporting events that are occurring and social media alerts that might be relevant to them as analysts are looking at them either on the CTI side or the PTI side, and the fusion of the two. So again, we're super excited. There's a lot of day one capability that we're bringing, that Joe showed, that we're pretty stoked about. One of the questions that I saw come through was, does every ThreatConnect user get Polarity? The answer is we're more than happy to get you a trial set up. It is a premium capability. There's a pretty low calorie add-on that we'll have available to users. There is a community edition available still for Polarity, but it doesn't have the ThreatConnect integration, and it's got some limited integrations that it supports. But if certainly we recommend you go with the trial to see the full, all the lights turned on and everything there. I saw another question come in with, does the LLM connect? Can the LLM be the ThreatConnect AI generated summaries? So today with Polarity, and Joe, feel free to chime in with more detail. You can bring your own LLM, whether you're using OpenAI's or Gemini or something like that, and it will create those summaries based off of your approved organization's LLM that we would reach out to. We are, and as I mentioned in the near term, looking to hook up to our own CAL-based LLM capabilities to provide summaries in a formatted way, to provide also new insights bubbled up in the form of MITRE attack techniques, what industries are highlighted in a given unstructured document or report, what vulnerabilities, et cetera, all these things that we can kind of highlight from the LLM itself and what the impact that may be to you.
Yeah, the traditional flexibility of a Polarity integration leaves us in a position to not just integrate with the LLMs that our customers want to bring, right? We've got the core that we released. Andy highlighted them, things like Gemini, things like Azure, and things like ChatGPT. So those are the most commonly integrated LLMs that we're seeing right now, but we are seeing several open source projects, right, based on similar methodologies get spawned internally within organizations. And a lot of our customers actually want to connect to those. And the framework is flexible enough to do just that, which will allow our customers to point at their own LLMs, or when we go down that motion, connect to something like a ThreatConnect LLM capability that's available. So just the sheer flexibility of the framework gives us the ability to not only allow you to choose where to point it to, but will also set us very quickly on our way to integrating and interconnecting our own products.
Yep. Another question that came up, will each offering still be a la carte? Absolutely, yes. Yeah, so, go ahead, Arpine.
Sorry, I just wanted to remind everyone real quick that if you do have any questions, you can type them in the chat, but we'll also be covering some questions that were submitted in advance, which is what Andy...
Yeah, I jumped right into it. Yeah, so feel free, if you've got additional questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, as our friend said. Let's see. How can Polarity help us pull together cases across data that is not necessarily NTC? So I hope Joe kind of hit on that in the demo and you saw it, but maybe Joe, if you want to expand on that a little bit or double click.
Yeah, I mean, probably need a little clarification and a dialogue on what cases means in this case, because no pun intended, because obviously a case can mean something different to someone who's, more threat aligned versus someone who's, IR aligned. So just to speak about it generally broadly, if there's an absence of information in ThreatConnect for whatever reason, right? Maybe it's not a threat intel driven process that you're pursuing. Maybe the information's not in there because it was sourced from something that's not connected yet. Whatever the reason is that it's not in ThreatConnect, if the information's able to be brought into the Polarity UI, then of course we can help synthesize it. If you have a different case management platform that you're working, you can push information into the case management system that you use. So for example, if you're using something like a SOAR platform, an XOR is an example of a most recently updated integration that does this, where you can take the information pulled back into platform and you can actually push it into an active incident, right? Where you can add the evidence from the Polarity UI that's been gathered from all these different sources, and you can push it right in there. That might be historical SIM events, it might be social, it might be something else, documents that you have, Confluence pages that you have internal. But yes, we can help to contribute towards cases that have already been defined, or kick off and execute, initiate new cases within certain platforms as well, if you're not doing your case flow work through ThreatConnect.
Let's see. Polarity is incredibly awesome. How will ThreatConnect make it better? So hopefully we hit some of this already. We've got big plans. The near-term things that we're looking for to enhance with Polarity users, if you're just using Polarity on its own, is all of the horsepower and analytics and machine learning and AI insights that we can deliver from Cal, right? And also data for further enrichment on indicator classifiers that we have. If you're looking at IOCs, we can give even more context there. That's all pretty much immediate or very close to immediate value adds that we'll look to provide to Polarity users. If you're a joint ThreatConnect IDO and Polarity user, the ability to take the next step of action using ThreatConnect with a playbook-based automation to coordinate across teams, or a case and investigation within ThreatConnect. If you want to look at moving into a triage scenario with alert triage or email triage or whatever the case may be inside of ThreatConnect, we can, if you're looking at Polarity and you want to push something from Polarity into ThreatConnect, you'll be able to do that very quickly too.
Andy, I can just add a few more things to that. And one is from the data side, right? Polarity has never been a data producer, right? We have always been a conveyor, a distributor, a delivery agent, right, for information. And ThreatConnect, the relationship now opens up opportunities for us being able to convey not just other entities' data, but some of our own, right? Things like the very valuable information that's contained within Cal. So just on the technical level, it's just one additional thing to add, which we're going to be exploring in the very near term. I will also say from a process perspective, the folks at Polarity, for those that have engaged with us, our roots are in operational security. It's in incident response, probably more so than anything else, IR and hunt. The heritage of threat intel also allows us to cover a lot more with deeper subject matter expertise across a broader spectrum of information security, cybersecurity disciplines. And then lastly, I'll just say that the people at ThreatConnect are great. And now our collective team is great. Even if you've worked with us in the past and you've met our team, that we put customers first and mission first, and there's strong alignment there. And we now have, the support of a bigger org who allows us to, put some horsepower behind a lot of different processes, and also remove some distractions, right? So that we can just focus on the work. And creating that value for our customers. So that's a little bit of a personal note for me, probably than anything else, but hopefully also helps to answer the question.
I definitely appreciate that, Joe, and agree. I think everyone's very mission focused here, given our backgrounds and just our passions. One other question: how will things change for current customers of Polarity? So obviously we talked about the value add. But I want to also address if you are a Polarity customer and you're using another tip or similar product, don't worry. We're not ceasing support of any of those. We will continue to support all of those integrations, or the Polarity team will continue to support all the integrations that our customers need collectively. And you guys are all our customers now, and we're going to make sure your needs are met. Okay, I see I don't know, Arpine, if you want to hit that question from Charles.
Yes, and it looks like we covered most of the questions. I also wanted to note that we are close to the end of this webinar. So if you have a question that we haven't covered, or if you are watching the recording of this webinar and have a question, you can reach out to us through our website. We will be sending everyone an email with the recording of this webinar, so you can watch it, share with your colleagues, and you can reach out to us by either replying to your email or to that email, or if you are a customer, you can reach out to your customer success team member, or reach out through the website. Another thing I wanted to mention, that if you are going to Black Hat, we will be there, and this is going to be a great opportunity to meet with us for a deeper dive, live demos of all of our products, or ask your questions. And we also have some fun stuff planned. So please reach out to us, or you can register for those activities through our website as well, where we hope that we'll see you there. And that being said, I wanted to also thank everyone for joining, and also thank you, Andy and Joe, for a great presentation and great content. We are really excited to have Polarity as part of our ThreatConnect family on both the customer and team member side. So looking forward for what's to come. And thank you again. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a great one.
Thank you, everybody.